Joining us on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline right now is former head basketball coach at BYU, Steve Cleveland, good friend of the program. Coach, great to have you back with us.
Hi, Steve.
A lot happening in the basketball world, so shall we get to it, my friend?
It sounds good. Great to be with you guys.
John Rothstein of CBS Sports told us yesterday Yoeli Childs did not receive an invite to the NBA Combine. Do you think he's returning to BYU with that revelation?
I do. I think that, I don't know what, I didn't talk to Yoeli, but I think anytime you test the waters, you get an opportunity to get an assessment and to see where you're at. He's had workouts. He'll have additional workouts. I think Yoeli gets better through this process. You know, he has the opportunity to have people tell him those things that he needs to do to play at the next level. And what happens, and through that process, he gets better at the level that he's at. And so getting that assessment, developing his perimeter skills. I mean, he's an undersized five-man in college. And so he scores around the basket, and obviously this year he got better. He's able to step out and knock some threes down late in the year. But there's still some development for him to play at that next level, or even in Europe. I mean, there are places in Europe that he could play right now. But I think in terms of him improving and having an opportunity to get better, this year will be a big year for him. And I think he'll have an opportunity to really develop some of those perimeter skills.
Steve, back-to-back years now, Eric Mika and now Elijah Bryant. The leading scorer for BYU is leaving early. NBA draft, probably not in the cards for Elijah Bryant, right? Not an invite to the Combine either. What do you think of this new era of kind of guys leaving that aren't necessarily going to the NBA, likely going to Europe to play?
Well, it's been a paradigm shift here, in terms of college basketball. And I think there's so many more opportunities to play, not just in the NBA. I look at this as being good for the program. And you'll say, well, maybe the fans aren't thinking that. But at the end of the day, these kinds of things help recruiting, where most coaches, when they go into a home, they talk about not only their experience at the school and at their education and all the things that come with the collegiate experience, but they talk about helping them get to the next level. And that's a big part of recruiting. And, when you look at, for instance, Elijah Bryant, he's married, he's graduated, had a great experience at BYU. He actually gets a chance to actually get paid and with a game that he loves to play. So that doesn't, for me, that doesn't seem strange. That's kind of a natural evolution that happens. Now, had he not have been injured and not transferred and was younger, I would say that probably he stayed, or if he wasn't married. But all of those circumstances together, it actually makes sense to me that he would leave. With Eric, he wanted to test the waters, and obviously he found out that he wasn't ready for the NBA. But that being said, again, married young man playing, in Italy and making a lot more money than he got on his scholarship check from BYU.
Coach, you as well as anybody know the difficulties and challenges of recruiting at a place like BYU. With what has happened with Eric Mika and Elijah Bryant in the back of Dave Rose's mind, how does he now approach what he wants to do at BYU, getting players to come here, getting back to the NCAA tournament, but having to juggle a different era?
Well, it is a different era, and forever BYU has had such a unique dynamic there with freshmen, with missionaries coming and going, sometimes coming home early, sometimes not going at all. And you're kind of dealing with all those layers of, you're kind of you're always reconciling short-term needs with long-term goals. And that you've seen those recruiting pages. I mean, they go for 8-10 years. It's not easy. But I think that that when you get involved with a young man that's a member of the church, that there's a great opportunity to have him come. But what's happening now is the decision sometimes to not go at the last minute, or decisions to come home for a variety of reasons, whether someone's hurt or just maybe there was some emotional issues, or a young man that says he's going to go and all of a sudden at the last minute doesn't. Those are tough things for coaches that they have to deal with. But, that everyone that's ever coached here has done it, but it's a little bit different now in that these young men have so many more opportunities, not just the NBA. There are a lot of places you can go in the world and make $150,000 to $250,000, $300,000 a year for playing an even shorter schedule and be able to come back home and live in America 6 months of the year. So there are opportunities financially that just didn't exist before.
Yesterday, BYU announced a two-game series with San Diego State. First, a road game in December, and then a home game next year. What do you think of this two-game series with the Aztecs?
I love it. I love any games with the Mountain West Conference. I think both Dave and I, when we spent 14, he spent collectively, I think, about 14 years in that league, and I spent 6 years in that league, 2 in the WAC. And you know what, BYU had a lot of success in that league. And, I mean, Dave's had amazing success. And when we were together, we won 3 championships and went to the tournament 3 times. I think it's a league that everybody in this community connects to. I realize there are all sorts of arguments out there, but for basketball, I love the Mountain West. I love what it provides. Every arena is full, and there's energy and great places to travel to, some not so great. But there's fan bases there. There's a fan base every time you go to play. That and San Diego State, Coach Fisher built that program up from ground. Now Brian Dutcher has an opportunity to do it. So between San Diego State, I see where they're going to probably play UNLV as well, maybe in a neutral site game. Marvin Minzy's there, a longtime coach in the WAC. Those kinds of games on the schedule I love. I think it enhances the schedule, and I think the guys are excited about going to those places.
Coach Steve Cleveland with us on BYU Sports Nation, former head man at BYU, current college basketball analyst. Let's throw in San Diego State to the likes of a home game against Houston, neutral against Utah, and neutral against UNLV. BYU is going to go on the road and play at Mississippi State, at Illinois State. They are certainly ramping things up. Coach, at what point does it become too tough if you throw in a multi-team event?
You know, I don't think it can be too tough. Not when we're seeing what's happening to teams that are winning 25, 26, 27, 28 games and not getting into the NCAA tournament, and especially when they're in a conference that is usually in the 13th or 14th rank. And this year, I think St. Mary's will be down a little bit. You know, they're not going to be a Q1 game as they might have been playing in conference play. So, you obviously don't want to get things totally out of balance. But this, if the NCAA tournament, and it is, I know it's the highest priority for Coach Rose and for the BYU administration, for all the fan base. This is you got to do this, and those in conference games. You know, I mean, playing Utah on a neutral site, that's good, but Utah obviously is a tough out. Playing Weber State at Weber State's never going to be easy. Utah State's had a coaching change. At Utah Valley, they lost some pretty significant seniors, but all of those games were very emotional, very competitive. And then you throw in, I mean, that Mississippi State game, 2 or 3 of their players, basically tested the waters. They've all come back. That's a top 20 team. And, a win on the road there would be huge. But certainly playing well there, even if you didn't win, and being competitive early in the year would bring notice to BYU and get them on that NCAA page. And the rest of the schedule certainly is solid. And I like the schedule. And I think that when you consider that the WCC recently has not been great, I actually think this year the WCC from the bottom up, that bottom half of that league, is going to take a step up. A lot of teams with freshmen and sophomores. I think the league will be far more competitive in the middle of the league than it has been in the past.
That's the hope. And let's finish with this. What do you think of the hiring of Lee Camard as the new assistant coach at BYU?
I could not be happier. I love Lee as a person, as a player. I spent 3 years recruiting him and getting to know his family. He is a competitor. He'll be great with the young man. He'll not only just working them out, but he understands what it is to play championship basketball. He'll be a great transition defensively to come in and help in that way as Heath left, and I think we're gonna see a little more pace. I think just having conversations with Lee and knowing Coach Rose, the pace of play offensively may speed up a little bit, but I think with keeping the integrity of good shot selection and time and score. But I think Lee's going to be a great addition. I love him, and I hope that he has all the success that he could possibly have. He's got a great family as well.
Just maybe he's the bad cop for this BYU basketball coaching staff, right?
Yeah, no, he can do that. He can do what he needs to do. He's a really competitive young man, and he's not afraid to share his opinion. And Coach Rose, that's one of the things that as a head coach, you want to know what your assistants think. But I think Lee's got a good enough relationship with them because he spends so much time with those young men off the court and working them out that he can get into them. And that's kind of one of the things that Heath was able to do throughout his coaching career. You develop relationships through working guys out and spending extra time with them. When everybody's gone home, you as an assistant coach are still there with that young man. that doesn't go unnoticed. That's something that connects you with the team. And then when things don't go well and you get into a kid, he accepts it and respects it because he knows how committed you are.
Coach, great to talk to you as always. We wish you a fantastic summer, lots of golf.
Thanks.
I'm sure we'll be talking along the way as the BYU basketball schedule becomes more and more solid.
Hey, thanks, guys. Have a great day.